Yeah.
Yar
Yeah, yeah.
banana.
Golly. And welcome back. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience. Together, we are on a mission of Dynasty domination.
Oh, and the mission is good.
The mission is not impossible.
Oh,
Like that.
hey.
So let's Tom Cruise our way through this episode, boys. How you doing?
Ah, so good. See if someone put Mahomes on the trade block in a single QB league. Woof.
Ooh.
Spicy.
Yeah, so if that doesn't get your juices flowing, I guess Kelsey Fest will have to
I
supplement
guess,
for
man.
you.
Well, have fun trying to trade with that guy.
All right, that's
the
enough
double
of that.
birds. Yep. So we're back here, man. We're still doing our Rookie Madness bracket. We did the blue and the orange last week. We're on to the red and the green
Show now.
this week. Specifically, the green today.
Woo!
First and foremost, if we're talking upcoming rookies, round of 32, I'm going to kick it over to you boys, and let's get into it.
All right.
Yeah.
Whew. Green already. All right. Well, as you guys know, we're on to the round of 32, and we like to start out by recapping those who didn't make it to the second round. So for the green bracket, that was Evan Hall took the L in the first round, as well as Kenny McIntosh, Stetson Bennett, Jaden Reed. Muhammad Abraham definitely lost.
Rip.
Yep, and Nathaniel Tank Dell did not make it. So a couple bye weeks didn't cut the mustard as well. So now there's just 8 guys left. So let's get into those matchups for those 8 guys.
Yeah. So our first one, we have our number 1 seed, Bijan Robinson, going up against the number 9 seed, Zack Kuntz. I think this one's fairly obvious. Bijan gets the move along here, right?
I'd say so, for sure.
Yeah. So Zack Kuntz, he's at least my favorite, maybe an RDR favorite. We'll find out by the end of this. Tight end out of Old Dominion, tiny little school. Not a tiny guy, 6'7", 255 pounds. He's almost 24 years old, so he's a bit on the older end. Not a great 2022. Only played 5 games, only 12 catches, 144 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But his thing is he just dominated the combine for somebody, not even for somebody his size, just somebody at the tight end position. He ran a 4.5540 that puts him in the 94th percentile for the 40 time. He's in the 98th speed percentile, 98th burst percentile, 96th agility percentile, and he has the 99th catch radius percentile.
Jeez.
It's just crazy. And we kind of got away from it last year after we talked about RAS, but just bringing that back, the relative athletic score, he's a perfect 10 on that scale. So this dude is just this huge, massive target with an incredible wingspan with his size, but he also can move for a guy at the tight end position. So he's going to be able to kind of out-body linebackers with that size and speed, kind of basketball them out. And then he's going to be able to, he's going to be able to run away from the linebackers. He's going to be able to box out corners and safeties, kind of out physical him like that. He catches with his hands, so that wingspan is not going to waste. He's not bringing it into his body or anything like that. I really like this guy, but there are some major red flags with Kuntz here. Low production. Career high was in 2021, 692 yards and 5 touchdowns. Combined, over all 3 of his other seasons, he had 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it's not great. Those 2 touchdowns came in 2022 as well. So just not a huge amount of production down there for all of his physical gifts. And then that was against like not great competition either. You know, like the Old Dominion just got in to the Sun Belt Conference this year. and the Sun Belt Conference is far away from a powerful conference in the NCAA. But it doesn't matter because teams are going to fall in love with this guy. He's a complete traits projection. Absolutely. Less than 1,000 yards and 7 total touchdowns over the course of 4 seasons is not amazing, but he has this smooth play style while he catches with his hands and in stride, and he can turn it upfield. And he does kind of like, he doesn't really go down when you try to take out his legs at first. So like he gets these yards after the catch. And, I think a lot of teams are really, really going to fall in love with this guy. It may not work. It is this traits projection. But he's this enigma that's not going to be ignored from the combine. And just kind of going into that, the Niners, Rams, and Eagles have already scheduled meetings with him. And this is a guy that no one was talking about. He's not in PFF's draft guide even. Like, this guy doesn't exist. And that was part of what's hard about studying him. There's not a ton of tape. You can't find tape on the sites we usually use, like Dynasty Nerds and stuff. You can't on YouTube. The clips are like highlights, and they're like 1 minute and 50 seconds long or 2 minutes long for the entire season. So there's a lot of unknown here. Like, freaking PFF doesn't even have a lot of grades on him. He's this enigma, but this athletic prowess is gonna grab somebody's attention. And if he lands in the right systems, like, can you imagine him on the 49ers learning from George Kittle? Like, come on, get out of here. That would be incredible. Or the Eagles with Dallas Goedert over there. Like,
get him out of there.
But I don't know. I like this kid, but yeah, he stood no chance here. He's definitely like kind of a crush of mine. I don't know how you guys feel as much about him, but I like him a lot. But there's too many question marks for him to get any farther than this.
Oh yeah, especially drawing Bijan, man. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
No, man, he was a cool dude to check out. I did watch. I think I saw the full game film for the UCF game, but it was like 1:50, like you're saying.
Yeah,
and you had to really watch because to watch him block or anything, he was like out wide and in the slot, like he was lining up all over the place and gigantic, and like he was like the deep threat almost for that team. It was pretty cool. So there's definitely some potential. Couldn't hack it at Penn State though. So that's whatever. People are ignoring this kind of stuff when they see those numbers at the combine. They're really they're fishing for some sleepers. So he could very well be that guy. But I got some dudes coming up here that you don't need to be sleeping on. I can tell you that much. I'm gonna go to the matchup between number 6, Dalton Kincaid, and number 3, Devon Achane. And I think we've got an upset, boys. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I got Dalton Kincaid, man. Yeah.
I think so too.
Blazing hot.
Yeah,
right now.
Nobody is kind of more on fire right now than Dalton Kincaid as far as like pre-draft hype, in my opinion. Like, he is getting lit up right now.
Yeah, justifiably, man. That's so
oh yeah.
He's legit, man. That's fun. So it'll be something I look forward to touching on in the Sweet 16. But right now, we're gonna have to get into Mr. Devon Achane. So obviously, this guy brings out the sizest. He is a running back from Texas A&M, and he is 5'9", 188 pounds. So I want to say that size can work, but I don't know. We'll circle back to it. We watch plenty of film. We'll let you know. But what else do you need to know about him? Great news. He's fast as hell. He ran a 4.32 40. So in the past 10 years, only 3 running backs have been under a 4.4, and he's the fastest out of all of them. The other one was Keaton Mitchell, so whatever. But yeah, man, he is very quick. Didn't get too much metrics-wise from him outside of that. But if you look at the film, it pretty much tells you what you need to know. He's 21 and a half years old currently. And from a production standpoint, he only had 1 year as the lead back at Texas A&M. And it was nearly 1,300 all-purpose yards, with 1,100 on the ground and 11 touchdowns, which, you'd think a lead back would have a little more than that, but it was only 200 carries, so you can't really get too upset with it. But as I mentioned, this is only 1 year as a lead back because he's been sharing that backfield with Isaiah Spiller. As we all know, instant NFL stud Isaiah Spiller was in there. But if you look at what he did last year, he contributed almost as many yards as Isaiah Spiller. So he was highly productive, just short of 1,200 yards in 2021. And he actually outscored him 10 touchdowns to 7. So he's been a real thing going on out there, I think that we need to give him a little more credit. He had 5 touchdowns as a freshman. So I'm trying to build up this background, try to see where he would have been if he might have been the lead back the whole time. But that's just me kind of making up numbers. So anyway, I like to say this about him. He's stop, drop, kaboom, baby.
Rub on that.
If he ends up in Atlanta, there'll be a new Mr. Wiggles in town. You know what I mean? So we're just doing Holiday Inn jokes right now. Anyway, this guy, it's really fun to watch him run. I know you guys have checked out the film, and it's really just super interesting, fun stuff. He's got really superior vision and instant speed in the backfield, and he's got really good blocking reads, and he can pull cutbacks out of nowhere, just flashy, so fast that he does a cutback and it looks like that was just the play the whole time because he just goes from one place to another and he's just right through the hole. So, I mean, he never struggles to get to the edge. This guy's 4.3 too. He's just lightning quick. But a couple things that you think about a small guy is he might be a little weak. I liked watching him break tackles. He broke lower body tackles really well. Guys would try to, wrap up his legs or whatever, go for the legs. And he's just so fast that his feet just kept on running. And he just kept rolling, man. He had 53 broken tackles last year. So that's pretty good. And then 3.6 yards after contact per attempt. So, it just goes to show that just because he's small doesn't mean that he's not physical or able to power through contact. In fact, last year, 64% of his rushing came after contact. And about that quick feet, it works for him because he just keeps driving. Through congestion at the line or at the goal line, he's just able to just keep moving his feet and make it happen. So, just to get back into that, I'm just going to focus on his size and what you would assume about a guy his size. You'd think breakaway running touchdowns with that speed and struggle at the goal line situations. But I found it interesting that of his 21 total touchdowns in college on the ground, 9 of them were less than 5 yards. So and 6 of them were from the 1 yard line, and only 6 of them were from outside the red zone. So speedy and agility, he still wasn't really getting a lot of runaway touchdowns, which was kind of surprising and a kind of a little bit of a negative for me. But it was nice to see that it was functional at the goal line. But as I said, man, the highlights were just outrageous, though. When he does get clean, he just takes off, and it's pretty cool. I'd say that some of his film at the first part of 2022 was weak, though, man. It left something to be desired. He built up his skills this past year. And a lot of it was chunk plays and him getting tackled at the line of scrimmage. I mentioned him breaking tackles, lower body tackles. The thing is, if a guy gets him at the shoulder pad level, it's pretty much game over for him. So there is a little bit of power struggle there. But I just don't know if he can be a lead back in the NFL. I'm probably going to go ahead and say no. Definitely one of the supplementary guys. And another thing you got to look at with a running back at the NFL level is pass protection. And I didn't really see hardly any pass protection for him. PFF gave him a grade of 27, which is that's horrible. But honestly, I don't think it's really his fault because he was running routes on every pass play. His yards per route run were 0.66, which was that just means that he's just always running routes, even though he only had 44 targets, 36 catches, which is 7th best in this draft class. So it's just telling you he's out there not blocking, just running routes. Kind of for a small guy, I'd want more than 36 catches, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just so confused, man. I've almost like pivoted back to liking Keaton Mitchell a little bit more after really diving into it, which feels like blasphemy. Okay. But if you look at the pure stats comparisons, like Mitchell runs away with it. I mean, the competition's a little more stiff. But anyway, we're not talking about Mitchell. I'm excited to see where Achane ends up. I think he's very dynamic. So, and those cutbacks and what he does behind the line is just really, really nice.
Yeah, it's going to be impressive. He's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm with you. Like, he screams like being like kind of a complimentary guy in like a high-powered, like fun offense where he does like super exciting things, but not as a 3-down guy. Just because like, God forbid he goes anywhere where like the run blocking is not great, because just like you're saying, like if tacklers wrap him up top, it's a wrap. Like he kind of gets wrapped up, and like that's going to happen more in the NFL. Guys know how to tackle. Guys are going to know that is his weakness, and they're going to wrap him up. So if he ends in the right place, or like like sometimes talent just wins out, and like you're saying, like he can get to the outside so quickly that it could kind of like counteract a lot of that initial penetration, because they're going to have to defend for that outside run. So it could very well work, but there are like red flags, obviously, like the size, like you pointed out, and the ability to like not use as much power when it's necessary, are worries. But yeah, he's going to be an exciting player, and I'm pretty excited to see where he lands. And I think a landing spot could vault him over some guys for me, for sure.
Oh yeah.
That being said, though, let's get into a wide receiver matchup.
Ooh.
We've got where are the seeds on here? The 4th seed going up against the 5th seed. 4th seed being Jordan Addison, and 5th seed being Xavier Hutchinson. And I gave it to Addison here.
Sure enough.
Yeah, okay. So we're on the same page there. Xavier Hutchinson is a wide receiver out of Ohio State. He's 6'2", 203 pounds, is about almost 23 years old, 22.8. So, a bit bigger than some of the guys in this class, so that's going to be a point towards him. Incredibly huge workload for the guy. 161 targets last year, led all college players. 93 was his career low in targets. So that's, he's used to getting the ball fed to him. Last year, he had 107 catches for 1,171 yards and 6 touchdowns. It's about almost 11 per reception. So really good, consistent year. He ran a 4.53 at the 40, puts him in the 56th percentile, 65th speed percentile, and 39th burst. So fairly average numbers, nothing crazy. And that kind of speaks to how I found Hutchinson through the tape. He's this very consistent, very good football player, but he's this kind of average athlete that doesn't have anything that sets him crazy apart from anyone else other than his consistency. 161 targets, like I said, last year, and then 93 career low. So 3 seasons of almost 100 targets, if not more than 100 targets in 2 of them. And you couple that with only a 4.9% career drop rate. So he's getting the ball thrown to him all the damn time, and he's hardly ever dropping it. And what I do like about him is, even though he doesn't have this crazy athleticism, he's very creative with the ball in his hands. When he gets the ball in his hands, he can use space, kind of get a little bit of yards after the catch, and just understands the position, understands how to play. He's ready and willing to kind of do what the team needs him to do, and he's consistently going to do it well. The problem with that is that he could get pigeonholed into like a wide receiver 3 or like kind of a bigger slot role in the NFL, where that's going to be awesome, but it's not going to lead to like fantasy viability. One of the things you look at, I was watching the game of his against Oklahoma State, and he had 10 catches for 106 yards, which is great, highly productive, highly consistent, and that's awesome. But like 5 or 6 of those were like behind the line of scrimmage screen passes, wide receiver screens that went for 12, 13 yards every single time. And with his athleticism, I don't see that happening in the NFL as much. And then like with the way he profiles, I don't see him even getting that many opportunities on a weekly basis. Like 10 targets and like 6 screens is pretty, like, you're relying very, very heavily on this guy. So I'm skeptical about the idea of him getting that many looks in the NFL. But if he does, he has proven to be consistent and like productive in those types of roles. Like I said, he was taking those screen passes for like 12, 13 yards almost every single time, like clockwork. So like that's something you like to see. He's able to read the blocks, get in there and do it. Just skeptical on how that's going to translate to the NFL. And that's kind of how I wrap up on Hutchinson entirely. I think he's a great player. For the 3 years we've been doing this podcast, I say it a lot. Great player, but I'm skeptical of like true fantasy potential. So maybe it's like a Bell trope that we need to start ringing every time I say it. But that is where I kind of land with Hutchinson. Is I think he's going to be good, really, really good. I think he'll add a lot of value to an NFL team. But I think he probably ends up falling in a place that, like, especially not right away, he's going to be very productive in terms of fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the nature of the beast, man. You watch all these college guys and you're like, oh, these guys are going to create some turnover in the NFL. And then like rookies are really just a drop in the bucket. So they can't all be winners. But I thought it was cool. I like that, like you're saying, even as a freshman, he was like kind of the heart of the offense. Bijan, Breece Hall was there, but whatever. Besides that, he was like, the receiving attack for Iowa State for 3 years, 97th percentile in the college target share. Pretty amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I liked him. I watched a game where he played Iowa and he had 11 catches for 98 yards, and it was like really gritty. Iowa's a really hard-nosed defense. And I liked that like he was in it. I don't know how many targets he got that game. It must have been 20 because he didn't catch half the passes. But it was just fun to watch a guy. He just seemed like he had a lot of heart. So maybe there's some optimism. But I think the size gives him that bump though in this draft class. We'll see what happens. But yeah,
I agree with you.
All right, well, I'll get on to our last matchup of the green bracket round of 32. And that's going to be our number 10, A.T. Perry, Wake Forest wideout, against C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State. And Stroud just strides right past A.T. Perry on this one. Yeah, that was like Stroud just didn't even have, he like pulled up and was like, A.T. Perry, no.
Peace.
See you. Next round for me. Go home, my friend. So A.T. Perry, though, is a guy that was pretty cool if you got into the film. We'll just start at the beginning like we always do. He is currently 23 and a half years old, so he's a bit on the older side, but the size is nice, We keep talking about these kind of typical size wide receivers as being nice in this draft class, but he's 6'3", 195. But he has like uncharacteristically long arms, 33 and 3/4 inch arms. So that's given him a pretty nice catch radius, and it really did show. As for the athleticism, it's pretty average, man. 74th percentile on the burst, and the speed was 72nd due to his 4.47 40 time. And I don't know. I don't think average is necessarily the kiss of death for Perry because he managed to be a pretty big contributor for Wake Forest. This is a team that last year was third in ACC for yards per game, and Perry managed to be the conference leader in receiving yards, but actually just number 6 if you go yards per game. They just had an extra game compared to the rest of the conference, but so yeah, absolutely. But he offers some good consistency, man. Not every guy in this draft class has put up more than one productive college year. It's kind of rare almost. And he did have nearly 1,300 receiving yards in his third year with 15 touchdowns. That was 2021. And then last year, he was just under 1,100 yards with 11 scores. So, you know, his game is pretty interesting to me. I like to watch his mix of traits. Like he's just, I don't know. I'll get into it, but he's not a one-trick pony. He is a very physical wide receiver. First of all, like he is a bossy dude. He got some offensive pass interference calls, and I think I saw multiple that should have been called that weren't. It was just like it was a bit too much. And so that's obviously going to be something you can't get away with at the NFL level. And so maybe it could hold him back. You never know. But he's a really smart player. He really seemed to tailor his technique to his competition, right? So like some games he really relied on his speed, and he's got a good launch off the line of scrimmage, and he's pretty quick as he plays, but it's like he only did it when he knew he was faster than the other guy, right? And so other times he would rely more on like his technique. Like he would kind of wait for the defender to make a mistake and kind of press into him with his route running and his footwork. And that was cool. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, physical guy, like sometimes he just dared guys to try and keep up with him physically, you know, throughout the route. But it was the cool thing was watching him change it up. Like he knew who he was playing against, and he would just like throw different stuff at him. And I thought that was pretty cool. But obviously the physicality goes through at the catch point, through contact with the ball, contested catch, especially with that length, is really a strength of his. He did kind of have a lot of drops, and I'll get into that. But he's kind of a funky dude, man. But the way he catches the ball is interesting. And I caught this interview he did with Bootleg Football, and he was talking about like trying different catch techniques on the jugs. Like that was his thing. Like he I don't know. He just would try different catching techniques, and he went in depth on like the different things he does. And you could see it on film after I heard him talking about it. It's like almost like he got too cute. Like he was trying to, like he was practicing in the game almost.
Yeah.
But
gotcha.
It was kind of weird. He actually said a lot of interesting stuff about sizing up his competition and like leveraging guys and really a cerebral type of player, which got me pretty excited about him. And I didn't know if that was more due to the fact that he's 23 and a half years old. Like maybe it's an experience thing, or if he was just a different kind of player. But I don't know. That really got me excited. But sometimes the catches do work out. Like he had a catch against NC State where that was one of his best games. But he was like, you know, going back corner, and the guy was really on him. He didn't have a lot of separation, so he did like a weird, like a tilt kind of basket catch that wasn't. It's like not what you see people do.
Yeah,
it gave him the extra space he needed to complete the catch, and you just see weird stuff like that all over his game. So he's kind of just a different guy, and I enjoyed watching him do him. So I think that he's kind of a really hardworking guy, and he's always looking for ways to improve his game. That's kind of what I picked up through this whole like, journey I went on with A.T. Perry. So I'm hoping that he gets somewhere where a coach is like, man, maybe I'll put a little extra time in because this guy's really a sponge. You know, he's absorbing what I'm trying to get him to do. So I don't know, man. I don't know. He seems like the kind of guy who's going to be on the field as like a wide receiver 3. So like, you know, he was pretty productive in college, but he wasn't a superstar. So I think he'll be on the field, but he's not going to be relevant as far as fantasy goes unless he gets a clean break.
Trope alert.
But
It's a Christian's thing, bro.
Hey, man, it's a round of 32. You got to kick these guys to the curb.
No, 100%. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I do like him a lot. He adds a very different type of player to this draft class with the wingspan and the size already. But yeah, he does have the like consistency concerns, like almost 11% drop rate over his college career. Like that's That's tough for a receiver, but like you, I haven't listened to any of his interviews, but like
No, yeah.
if he is the type of guy that's gonna improve, like, hey man, that's something you can work on. Maybe stop trying to do the trick catches and just catch it. But like I think he could be a player, man. I think like he could end up surprising people, and we've said it a few times with a lot of these bigger receivers. Like I do think they're gonna get forced up the board a little bit and could find themselves in some interesting situations. But I do kind of lean more with you where it's like, I like A.T. Perry. I don't necessarily know that like fantasy relevance is headed his way, but you never know. He could end up on a roster where he's immediately like a number two. And he could be like a rookie kind of useful pick for you. But then he'd almost feel like, even if he was, unless he had a dominant rookie season, he'd almost feel like a guy that's immediately going to get kind of replaced the very next year.
Absolutely.
But I do like him. He's a good player.
I like him as well.
But that's it for the green, right?
That's it, man. Review of the winners. We got Bijan Robinson versus Jordan Addison. Sweet 16, baby. And then Dalton Kincaid with the upset over Devon Achane.
Devon.
And CJ Stroud. So that's a couple of fun matchups. It's starting to get pretty interesting here. So
yeah.
Shafoof.
Well, we look forward to seeing y'all on Sunday.
Or Tuesday.
That's my bad player. But yeah, the red bracket.
Read it.
Coming up, last bracket. Let's go. Last round of 32. Yeah.
Part 4. Round 32. Coming at you.
Peace.
Bye.